you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Chris Voss here from thechrisvoss.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are latest things that makes official. Welcome to nearly 20 years of the Chris Voss Show podcast and nearly 3,000 episodes, where we post 1 to 2 new episodes a day and pile interviews on you, so you have plenty to binge all day long. We are the oldest surviving podcast that still broadcasts daily 1 to 2 shows. There's about a handful of us left, so help us support the pirate ship to keep on steaming along here and fix our broken backs and why we can't feel our legs in our old age. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, amazing young man on the show, we're going to be talking about his book series and some of his insights and what he does and how he can possibly help you, or maybe you can help yourself by reading his books or whichever. His book is entitled Frequency Healing: Beginner's Guide to Unlock the Body's Natural Healing System, and it's part of the 3-book series of the Frequency and Energy Healing series of books he's written. We'll get into all 3 today. And Michael Upstone is the author. He joins us on the show. We're going to be talking to him about his books. He spent over 18 years working with some of the world's most advanced home health technologies, driven by a passion for empowering as many people as possible to achieve tangible results. His books offer clear, practical guidance on integrating energy devices, detox protocols, nutrition, holistic approaches to health, and environmental awareness to support the body's natural self-healing potential. With hands-on experience in over 25 energy healing modalities, Michael has performed thousands of treatments and trained doctors, practitioners, and home users in the safe and effective use of cutting-edge wellness technologies. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Give us .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
keephealthresearch.org is our website, and the books can be found under Frequency Healing Series on Amazon or Michael Upstone on Amazon.
All right. Give us a 30,000 overview, if you would, please. What's inside your book?
The first book, Frequency Healing Beginner's Guide, is really, first of all, showing people what's possible. And believe me, that is amazing. It absolutely blows doctors away and clinicians as well as normal home healers. So the first thing we begin with is evidence. Now, the beginner's guide is just a little slim, low-cost volume, so we don't go into a great deal of that, but the big focus is how does it work? What kind of options are available? And in fact, there are 9 different sectors. We cover 80 different modalities and explain the strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons of all of them, and the right questions to ask for whatever particular issue you want to deal with, because these things deal with a whole host of different things, actually.
Can I use energy healing to do that scene that in Star Wars where the Emperor shocks Darth Vader? I want to be able to have that kind of energy. Or are we talking about a different kind of energy?
There's a little device called a scanner, which was my little entry into this area. And now one time I had a real bad back injury, and that sorted it out in 20 minutes, and that was on full power. But if you were to just give someone a little tap with that, say on the backside after they jumped out of the shower, then it would be like a cattle prod. So that could be quite exciting for people, I think.
I've got a new toy to torture people. Will it work in elevators? No, I'm just kidding. Don't do this thing, folks. You don't piss off strangers. So let's lay some foundations here. What is exactly frequency healing?
Okay, the body works on frequencies. It works on energy. The central nervous system sends electricity around, and that connects into the the endocrine, hormonal, humoral system as well, which releases the chemicals. So we have a controlling and interconnected mechanism there. But there's a third element as well, which is a discovery by a guy called Fritz Albert Popp in 1976, which is that the DNA produces light in the form of biophotons. So we've got a light governing system within the body as well. And the quick version is that bodies heal when they're given the right amount of energy and when they have effective communications. And because of the way the energy is structured in this case, then those two effects can be created at the same time. And what that means is that we can stimulate the body to very, very fast adaptive reactions and healing reactions.
Yeah, I had my, years ago, my father, he was really into holistic stuff. And I think even my mom uses, they have little kind of shockers that you can put on, and it kind of shocks and gets the muscles that are bound up to release. And if you turn it up, it really feels kind of like a shock. But if you keep it kind of small, it gives like a thing. Are those the type of things that one of the modalities maybe of the many we're talking about?
The electrical ones connect to the skin through electrodes, and you can either feel nothing at all through those, or a mild tingle, or you can actually manually control the energy yourself and set it on a bit more of a buzzy setting. So almost all of the kind of treatments are just pleasant tingles. There is one which is a part of dealing with chronic processes where we would tend to use higher power to undo blockages and shake up the system a little bit.
Yeah. That, or we can just punish them for being stupid. No, don't do that, folks. That's not good. I'm just doing jokes. You ever see that? What was that one experiment they did where they shocked people, or they thought they were shocking people, and they were trying to see if they could replicate the Nazis? It was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how many modalities? I think you mentioned 75 modalities.
80.
How many different variants are there? Just talk to me like I'm an idiot. I kind of know this holistic stuff from my father and other people we've had on the show, but talk to me like I'm out in the audience and I don't have an operational awareness. Give me more of a foundation on that. What kind of modalities are involved in energy healing? What makes it different than, I imagine there's some stuff out there that's kind of pseudo-science quackery maybe, and what separates one from the other maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of rubbish out on the market, unfortunately. And a lot of this is a big area of adoption at the moment among the public. But they tend to start off with learning things from memes and poor questions. And that's not a great place to start. So
what about TikTok influencers? They're great.
Yeah, they can do some damage as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically a typical question would be, what's the frequency for? What's the frequency for cancer? What's the frequency for schizophrenia? And for a number of reasons, those are problematic questions, because people will jump in, they will offer frequency suggestions, not understanding that there's a lot more to it than that. And in fact, even if there was a particular frequency for a problem, then we encounter the next problem, which is actually you can undertreat with these things and you can cause damage through over-treating as well.
Oh, really? Wow.
So this is important stuff to know. But let me give you some sort of examples of this. I've got a laser here, which, do you want to see it? Or
sure. As long as it doesn't blind me, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Little handheld device.
Yeah.
When my daughter was just a baby and she was teething, this would take 10 seconds to switch off her teething pain, which was fantastic for her, fantastic for the family, of course, because no one likes to see their baby suffering. Yeah. And when she was 2, she got stung on the finger by a hornet, and that took 3 cycles of the laser, which was 10 minutes to switch off.
Oh, wow.
But these are phenomenal. We've got over 300,000 links to searches on our website into the US Department of Health, PubMed and things like that. And there's well over 30,000 studies into lasers proving not just energy healing effects, but regenerative effects.
Yeah.
So let me unpack that a little bit. Energy healing is very fast effects on things like healing, on pain, injuries, inflammation, things like that. Regeneration is a step ahead, because energy healing will typically leave, or rapid healing will typically leave a scar behind after a bad burn or a cut or an operation or something like that.
Scab.
But the body built itself in the first place. With regeneration, we can actually stimulate the body to rebuild itself, to eliminate the scarring, and also deal with the pain, the inflammation, things like that as well. So there's a very small subcategory, if you like, of regenerative devices, and this includes the soft laser, which is very safe, very easy to use. We need to have the technique to be able to use this to give just the right amount of treatment, because with my baby daughter, if I'd missed that 10-second slot, the next thing is all that treatment would have been undone. She'd have been crying again. I'd have been thinking it hasn't worked and done more. And then we'd have been into damage, cell damage, DNA damage. It's called oxidative stress. So that's how the laser works. This little beauty, this is from the Russian Space Medicine Program. This is known as an electrical adaptive stimulator. This is built in a satellite factory. This is unbelievably broad frequency harmonics. It works in a completely automatic way with the body. Let me just put it somewhere else.
Oh, wow. You just put the 3 contacts, it appears to be on the skin?
That's right. So my body is now choosing which percentages of 4 different programs it wants, the amount of energy, it's fluctuating the energy, and this little device is also fully regenerative. This is unbelievably powerful. And this will basically also tell me when the body has had enough. So that kind of thing. I treated a lady a few months ago in Ireland. This is obviously, it's a great example, but that took 63 seconds to resolve her back pain.
63 seconds, wow. Now, let me ask you, you said it was Russian, right?
Yeah.
If you live in Russia, will it help you protect you from being thrown out windows on Moscow? That's kind of a Moscow joke.
It might help you if you bounce at the bottom a little bit. Yeah.
Evidently, you don't bounce well when you go out windows, and there's a lot of people who accidentally fall out of windows in Russia. So Moscow jokes. Now, let me ask you this. My dad used to dabble in this business, and I think we've had some people on that have red eye. I'm not sure the terminology here, so I'm stupid. But the red IR stuff, infrared, is that what it's called?
Red light, infrared,
Yeah, and I used some of that stuff on me for muscles and stuff. My dad had a beamer, and I think it was either magnets or laser beam. I don't know what was inside the thing. It was just a mat. You laid on it. But man, I would lay on that mat after being really hungover after partying in Las Vegas. Big surprise, partying in Las Vegas, right? And I would be, my kidneys would hurt, my liver. We'd stayed up all night doing stuff, going to church and things like that. They have great churches in Vegas. And so I would lay on that thing, and within 30 minutes, it would break down all of my muscles and my inflammation and do all that crazy stuff. And I would feel like 10 years younger. I would feel like a whole new man. I would get up after half an hour, and I would be like, they would be practically carrying me onto the mat, and I would get off that thing and bounce around and be like, I feel like heaven. And it's pretty great. Years ago, decades ago, I was going to a chiropractor every week. My back was constantly going on, and it was so bad with my ADHD and my anxiety. I would be leaving the chiropractor, and my back would be popping out. That's just how bad it was. And finally I went to him, and I went, this is just madness. I walk out of here, and in the car ride home, I'm popping out again. He goes, listen, I'm going to tell you something, but I probably shouldn't tell you this to you because you'll never come see me again. But if you get a tennis ball and you stand with your back up against the wall and you find the points that really hurt and you give them a good rub down, and he explained to me that what it is when blood vessels get pinched by the muscle, and it cuts off the blood flow, and that's what really hurts. And so by putting pressure on it, or some of the modalities that you talk about, I believe what it does is it helps release that muscle and let the blood flow move again. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I reckon so, except these devices are working in a bit of a different way. They're putting energy in, because that's one of the main reasons why people don't heal. But they're also stimulating the adaptive reactions of the body. So working with the communication systems as well. Would you like to see a couple of quick pictures?
Sure, let's do.
Okay, so this is a 91-year-old without one 10-minute treatment. She had a blood blister on her finger. They're both time-stamped images, and the other image shows you what it looked like an hour and 10 minutes later.
Wow.
Like so it had never happened in the first place. Let me show you one more, because this is just amazing, I think. This is one 12-minute treatment of a girl with very severe traumatic brain injury after birth. And you can just see the difference. She's on the first one, she's catatonic. Her eyes are glazed and rolling in the back of her head. Afterwards, eyes are clear. She's focused on the camera. She's just come to life effectively. So this is how incredible potential of this technology.
Yeah. And our body is an electrical system, right? Our brain, at least, just has a bzzz going on all the time.
Yeah.
So we're kind of wired for it. That's why I always stick my finger in the socket just to recharge myself every now and then. It hurts for a couple seconds, but after a while, you're fine. You just convulse a little bit.
Gives you a buzz.
Don't do that, folks. Yeah, you mix it with a little vodka, and it's a great time for on Friday. So you've written these 3 books. Let's talk about the second book. This first one's like a beginner's guide. So if you're at the layman's level like I am, where you're just like, what is this? You can kind of get a foundation for how it works. What's the second book in your series?
The second book recognizes an issue because we need to have a really straight conversation about this stuff. Now, many of the people that we deal with have already been written off by the medical establishment effectively. So they've already been told that there's nothing more that they can have done for them. But some of them, we don't know if it's what you might call a functional situation. So we're operating in a very sort of grey area about what's possible and still learning about it. But my experience has been that overall about 85 to 95% of even things like severe chronic degenerative illnesses, we can have a fast impact and actually undo the process of that illness with these technologies. But what about the other 15%? 5% or so. This is where the holistic strategy comes in. So there are a number of things that you can actually do at home in general terms to help yourself that are really dirt cheap, based on very, very good science, which I tuck a little bit of the evidence for that into the books as well. But also then we need to consider that, for example, we know a deficiency or a toxic event of sufficient severity, and that's going to cause an illness. So we then drill down into the personal factors and the other things that block healing. So let me give you a quick example of this. There was a lady in Ireland I was treating a few months ago who had an Achilles injury. Now, I expect with my kind of technologies that I can make an impact on that straight away. So I treated her day 1. No impact. Day 2, no impact. And now I'm starting to ask questions. So I went to our basic sort of question list, and these included a question which was, are you getting enough sleep? And she said, no, not at all. I said, okay, get yourself at least 1 or 2 really good nights sleep, switch off your alarm and just catch up, let your body catch up naturally with your sleep. So she got in touch 2 days later and said, that was it. I'm completely healed now. So these kind of little things, we can easily overlook them. Sleeping next to the Wi-Fi at night, sleeping next to a mobile phone that's charging, all those sort of things can just disrupt the improvement of the body. So when we're coming to the complex chronic illnesses, we don't necessarily know the cause, and we're playing like a strategic game of Clue, I think it's called in the United States. We call it Cluedo, which is line up your biggest suspects and tick them off the list. So we're going to stack the odds in the favor of that person, especially if they've got a chronic illness or maybe sometimes multiple chronic illnesses. So that's the gist of the second book, really. It's standalone stuff. Very quick story here. Lady got in touch after the first book was published March last year. She couldn't afford a device. She had 3, I think, chronic illnesses. And I said, okay, adopt the 3 basic principles of this home healing strategy. She did that, and I followed up with her end of June, early July, and she said, you'll never guess what's happened. And I went, okay, try me. She said, I was walking around the shops the other day with my friend, and she said, what have you been doing? She said, what do you mean? She said, whenever we've been around the shops in the past, you've been stopping every few minutes due to pain or exhaustion. Oh, wow. And she said, today you've just romped around the shops, no problem, not a word of complaint or anything. And she said, then I realized I ran up the stairs for the first time in years the other day. Wow. And she did 3 things that are really basically free or almost no cost to do at home. And that was the impact that had on her situation without the devices.
Wow. That is powerful. Sleep is a lot of times where our body regenerates, right? If you don't get sleep, that's one thing I learned, man. I got to get my 7 to 8 hours sleep or else murdering takes place. And the judge says I can't do murdering anymore, evidently. I guess it's bad or something. I don't know, whatever. And, but no, man, I can feel I'm not functioning. I can feel that But there's some issues that I have. They feel exacerbated if I don't get my sleep. But if I get my sleep, I feel like I'm repaired. And all the swelling at night, and it helps take an edible too. That's what I sleep and heal like a baby. But man, if you don't get that, it damages your body, your brain, especially if you go for multiple days without getting a good 7-8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, you are so right there, Chris. Yeah, it's got a profound impact. In fact, quite often, if I'm treating someone who's in the middle of something like, say, the flu or whatever, while they're being treated, they'll typically fall asleep because that's their body wanting to switch off and get on with the repair and the regeneration work.
Yeah. Yeah. And we need it. It's so important. I don't trust myself to function if I have 6 or less hours of sleep and driving a car around and stuff. I can just feel I'm off. And, some of it may be age, but it's just at my age, you really have to have that 8 hours of sleep. I remember watching the CEO, he used to be the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and he was talking at a conference, and they said, what's the most important thing you do every day? Or what's the most important secret to living your life? And he said, get 8 hours of sleep a day. And you're like, he's a billionaire, so I'm not going to argue with him.
Yeah.
And then what about, I imagine this book talks about other modalities, because I see here diets, detoxes, superfoods, natural remedies, eating probably healthy foods. And then I think fasting does healing too, does it?
It certainly does. That's Nobel Prize winning science, actually, Chris. This is a guy called Professor Yoshinori Oshumi from Japan. He won the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine for his work on fasting. So I actually prefer something called dry fasting, which is shorter and sharper. But the idea is you give your system a little shock. So in this case, you don't have any food or water from, say, 8 o'clock in the evening till midday the next day. So 16 hours. That puts the body under a little bit of stress. It triggers something called autophagy, which is the body's self-healing systems. And he actually says that this is good for Alzheimer's, for diabetes, and for cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to get these modalities taking place for yourself. And then in the third book, what do we get into there in that one?
That's really the masterclass for people who want to really get on top of this. So we've covered the basic rules. We go into them a little bit more detail. There's a whole stack more evidence. So if you want to see the evidence, have a look inside the read sample section on Amazon, because they extended that so people can have a real good eyeful of the potential with the photographs and the x-rays and stuff, bone regeneration, things like that. But then we go into the detail of specific points to treat on the body, how to pay for your equipment, all sorts of issues like that. But that's the masterclass. It goes more deeply into the 80-odd modalities that are covered in the book, the strengths and weaknesses, how to pay for the equipment. That's it. That's really the peak of the last 18 years' work for me.
That is wild, man. And you go into all this stuff. And what about my sister has MS? I'm just making my personal problems part of the show. Have you seen any benefits that are out there that can help people with MS?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where I would be ideally layering this multifaceted strategy. So the first thing is those key things from book 2, the pH correction, the dry fasting, various other things, and then an individualized strategy to ideally actually use technology as well to drive the selection of supplements and things like that. And it tells you how to find real supplements, because if you don't get the right supplements, and if you don't proper bioavailable supplements, and if you don't have the correct cofactors with them, like zinc needs quercetin, which is from onions or green tea, then you're just producing expensive urine. But it also talks about layering together very different technologies. So there's one called bioresonance diagnostics, which sends frequencies into the body like a radar or a sonar, and it detects viruses, parasites, bacteria, and fungi. And then like an opera singer singing a note, shattering a glass, it will eliminate the top priorities of the body, because they're all getting their energy from somewhere. And guess where they're living. But really for that, you're looking at a regenerative technology like the ENS, which the one you've seen, but there are other ones as well. So hydrogen therapy is officially a medicine in Japan. It's used for getting, I think it was 170 plus illnesses, and that's another regenerative technology. So that one Sounds weird, doesn't it? Why
Yeah.
energy healing and hydrogen? A nutritionist would probably say hydrogen, that's a nutritional element, but a healthy gut produces 100 liters of bioavailable hydrogen a day, which is used by all the cells of the body for electron transport. So we're talking about an overall energy booster, which also has regenerative potential. So we could be stacking different things together in that situation for really faster and better results. But I think the basic one would be that very highly automated device. And I would say, with that holistic strategy, there's a high likelihood of having a good result in that situation. But let me put a qualifier in. The issue is, everybody's body's different. Everybody's body's different every day. We have a whole host of different sort of factors to bring in. But I would think in terms of overall percentage chances, high percentage chance of making a rapid impact and potentially undoing the whole process of the illness.
Yeah. That would be even just quality of life, an improvement there, pain and stuff. My sister has one of those pumps, the fentanyl pumps. It's built into her now, and she still has pain. It's just extraordinary.
It's a very, very nasty illness, and a lot of people are suffering at the moment. And you're right. Just being able to deal with pain, swollen legs, whatever other side effects come along, that helps a lot in terms of quality of life.
Yeah. Most definitely. And then the third book, let's see, I've got it here. The third book, Energy Healing, Regeneration, and Holistic Health. And so you probably get deep in the weeds of Beyond the Beginner's Guide at that point, where you're probably into expert level or novice.
Yeah, absolutely. Though they're all very simply and straightforwardly written. But yeah, that's really putting all the secrets, taking them all out of the bag and putting them all on the table for people.
Now, so how did you get into this sort of thing? When did you first discover this type of healing and health? And was there a story behind it? Maybe you had some pains or issues you were trying to resolve of your own.
In fact, nowadays, names like Tesla and Rife and perhaps Likovsky and people like that, they're much better known than they were 18 years ago. But I had heard of some of these folks, and I met a businessman in the UK, and he described how he had been literally bent double with a back problem. This was in his office. I was talking to him the week after, and his secretary was there, and he said he had to get his secretary to drive him to see this therapist who had this little first generation device from the Russian space program. So that was kind of like the size of a little Nokia mobile phone. And he described how this guy brushed his arm with this device for about 8 minutes or so, and then said, "Okay, you're done. You can straighten up now." His secretary absolutely howled with laughter at hearing this story, because what she remembered was the look on her boss's face when he was told to straighten up, and then the fact that all the pain was gone. So I decided to meet that guy. In those days, I used to have a little digital watch and I was struggling at that stage with differentiating between the 1s and the 7s on the digital watch. So I had a very quick treatment from this guy, again, probably 7 or 8 minutes kind of thing. We met for coffee the next day, and lo and behold, when I looked at my watch on the way, my eyesight was better. So I knew that it worked. I got one of those devices. Another good move. So I was very lucky with the device I discovered. Russian space program in the 80s had over 1,000 of their top scientists, biophysicists, doctors, engineers, working for 10 years to make these devices. Now, NASA's got its own space program as well, of course, in terms of dealing with the special health problems of space. But they were really focused on devices. And that was the equivalent of probably at least $5 billion investment nowadays. So this little device popped out of it. I was lucky to discover it. And then the good move was to get proper training in it. And I just began treating people all over the place. And that kicked off the journey.
And you've been doing it for how many years now?
18.
18 years you've been helping people. Let's talk about what's on your website and some of the offers you have there. How can people interact with you to learn more and work with you directly?
We don't supply equipment without training. So we've got a full-on training course, which in fact is a lifetime package. So we've got 2 of the videos for free. There's 9 videos in that package. 2 of the videos are for free on the website anyway, just to give you an idea of what it's about. We've also got a page of evidence, which is linked to over 1 million studies, including over 700,000 dealing with nutritional issues and things like that. The books are on Amazon. You can get the Kindle Unlimited versions for free as well. The beginner's book has a little black and white version, so that's a very cheap entry point. But basically, if anyone's interested in this, they go to the website or they buy a book and they can contact me through the books because my contact details are in the back. And if you mail me from the site, what we like to do is talk to everyone so that we can really explain things properly and really explore what their journey has been and what their particular issues are and what their objectives are. Because there's no one size fits all to this kind of situation. People have different problems, people have different budgets, and we try and help to give people quality information, because even if they're not going to get anything from us, then we want them to be able to be sure to go off in the right direction for them. But with the training package, that's a lifetime package. What that means is these devices can sometimes be upgraded and stuff. We can't be in the position as a non-profit research association of charging people more for that. So the information gets upgraded if the devices get upgraded. And also at the end of the process, there is a completely individualized support package, whether it's a home healer who's struggling to deal with something, or whether it's a doctor or clinician who's got a small list of patients that they need help with.
Oh, so you work with doctors and practitioners too, and can help them maybe serve others.
Absolutely. When you're going into this sort of area, there's different rules and things like that. So we want to make sure that people can not just use the things safely, and mostly they're very, very safe, but get the results really quickly, because you're trying something different. It might be a big investment. We want people to quickly get a right balance of competence and confidence in themselves and confidence in the devices, because once we get that ball rolling, then it becomes very easy and intuitive, if you like.
Yeah. Wonderful stuff. And the other modality that I used a long time ago was a friend of mine had really bad carpal tunnel syndrome, and he got a copper wristband, and it would just it wasn't anything complex, but he started wearing it, and whether it was the rubbing, the friction, massaging the muscle and breaking it down, like I talked about the tennis ball, or whether it was the copper, some people believe the copper and the energy in your body somehow, I don't know, it's a conductive conduit, kind of like electricity or whatever, grounding. And yeah, he swore by it, and he actually reached a point where his carpal tunnel went away. And I tried the same thing because mine was starting to really bug me, and it fixed my carpal tunnel. Yeah, I didn't have it anymore. And it's just kind of one of those things. The body has some weird stuff going on with it.
Yeah, it's actually, while we can marvel at the technology, there's a real miracle, which is this incredible capacity of the human body to heal itself. And if we just approach it in the right way, then I've seen many situations which most people would regard as miraculous, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we need as many miracles as we can. That's for gosh darn sure. So what maybe should I have asked you that maybe we didn't ask you about energy healing and making sure people understand what it is and how it works?
I think there's a lot of poor information out there, and my sort of adage is knowledge is power. If you want to start off in the right place, I did a little bit of analysis on the books on Amazon recently. It's a narrow sector. There's less than 300 books on energy healing. There's less than 100 on frequency healing, but there are 7 which deal with more than one, and there was only 1 which dealt with 10. Having a view over 80 modalities in 9 different sectors, I think is probably going to be the kind of information that's going to get people really moving. But one of the most important things is I give people questions, the right questions to ask, because the number of people that I've spoken to who've invested sometimes thousands in a piece of equipment and they don't know how to use it because they didn't have a proper training package is, beyond belief. So information is always where I'd start.
Yeah, definitely learn more. And people can reach out to you on your website and learn more about your stuff. They can buy your books, of course, and do that. Any other future books or events or anything coming up that you maybe want to plug?
I'm doing some special research projects at the moment. So one is we've got someone testing out these devices with racehorses in the UK because they apply to animals as well. We're looking at general performance enhancement. So sports is a future research project in terms of measurable enhancements in performance. And we know already Olympic gold medalists credit their wins with using some of these technologies. Another one is emotional traumas. And a big one for me is going to be actually to do a critique of thousands of studies, which basically break one of the key rules that we've got, which is that everybody's body is different and everybody's body is different every day. So what we've found is a difference actually in 80 times in the amount of treatment between one body and another. But these rules are being blasted through when it comes to testing out these devices on sports. They're using standardized treatment techniques. So I'm going to go into the statistics of that and break it down and produce a paper on the existing science and that there's a problem with that.
Okay. And people can probably sign up your website for future details of whatever you're up to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then following that is going to be cosmetology, which is wrinkle removal, scars, spots, rejuvenation, basically.
Rejuvenation's always good.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you on, and one of the details you have, give people your final pitch out to pick up your books and .coms where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera.
So, yeah, just search on Amazon and you don't even need to go to the book section, Frequency Healing Series or Michael Upstone. My books are going to be at the top of the list then. And the other option is to go to keephealthresearch.org and we'll talk to you. That's the most important thing. We're here to help. We're a non-profit.
Oh, wonderful stuff then. Wonderful stuff. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Michael.
Chris, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. An honor to have you as well. Order up his book, folks, wherever fine books are sold. It's entitled Frequency Healing, Beginner's Guide, Unlock the Body's Natural Healing System, and pick up all 3 series in the book so you can master it and all that good stuff. There's a lot of people that treat things with drugs, and of course the drugs get side effects so much now that you get side effects. You have to take something for the side effects of the drugs you're taking, which just means you have more drugs. Sometimes the natural healing process of the body and all like sleep and some of these other modalities can really help because they don't usually have side effects. And if they do, they're probably beneficial, especially with sleep and fasting and stuff too. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.